Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something absolutely crucial. We're going to completely demystify stress, anxiety, and burnout by looking straight under the hood of our own brains. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed, exhausted, or just kind of stuck in a loop of worry, you are not alone, and more importantly, it is definitely not your fault. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a rock-solid, scientifically grounded understanding of exactly how your mind works and how to actually reclaim your peace. Okay. Let's dive into this by shattering a core misconception right off the bat. Most of us go through life operating on the belief, I am anxious because there is danger. But the neuropsychological truth, it's more like, my brain predicts danger even when uncertain. Anxiety isn't a character flaw, guys. It's not a weakness. It's literally just your brain's protective prediction system acting like an overzealous bodyguard. It's just trying to keep you safe, but its alarm system is just a little too sensitive. So here is our structural roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll cover the overzealous bodyguard. Second, we'll meet the storyteller. Third, we'll dive into the body connection. Fourth, the art of allowing. And finally, number 5, we'll move beyond exhaustion to build long-term resilience. Let's get into it. Section 1, the overzealous bodyguard. Let's introduce the actual hardware inside your head that's responsible for keeping you alive and see what happens when it gets stuck in the on position. Think of these 3 systems as the blueprint of your stress response. First up, the amygdala. We can nickname this the smoke detector. It constantly scans for threats and works way faster than your conscious thinking. Next, we have the prefrontal cortex, or the CEO. This is your logic, reasoning, and emotional regulation center. And finally, the HPA axis, which is basically your hormone factory, pumping out cortisol and adrenaline. Now, in a healthy brain, these guys work in perfect harmony. But under chronic stress, your amygdala's smoke detector becomes hypersensitive, and it actually decreases the effectiveness of your CEO. Basically, the fire alarm is blaring and the boss is locked out of the office, probably hiding under a desk. So, how do we get the CEO back in the building? Well, we use a really cool micro practice called Name It to Tame It. When that internal alarm goes off, just ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1, what am I feeling? 2, where do I feel it in my body? And 3, what is my mind predicting? By simply labeling the experience, saying out loud, okay, I feel anxiety, my chest is tight, my brain is predicting failure, you physically force the prefrontal cortex to boot back up. You literally shift blood flow right back to the CEO. Which brings us perfectly to section 2, the storyteller. Because once that alarm goes off, your brain doesn't just sit there in silence. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. Your brain acts like a dramatic Hollywood director, generating fictional narratives to protect you. That's why it defaults to these extremely common cognitive distortions. Catastrophizing. If I fail this, my life is over. Mind reading. Oh, my boss definitely thinks I'm incompetent. Fortune telling. This is going to go terribly. Or just classic all-or-nothing thinking. If you experience these, your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It overestimates danger. But we don't actually have to believe the story. Instead of just accepting these dramatic scripts as absolute facts, we can use a really powerful cognitive behavioral technique. We put our own thoughts on trial. When your brain hands you a terrifying prediction, ask yourself this absolutely crucial question. What is the evidence? Seriously, what evidence supports this thought? And what evidence actually opposes it? What would you tell a good friend in this exact situation? We aren't trying to magically think positive here. We're just trying to think realistically. Actually, I really want to slow down here for a second, because this concept contains one of the most powerful psychological shifts you can ever make. Listen to the difference here. On one hand, I am a failure. On the other hand, I notice I am having the thought that I am a failure. Do you feel the difference? It's huge. This is called cognitive diffusion. That tiny little linguistic shift creates crucial psychological distance. You are not your thoughts. You are simply the awareness noticing those thoughts. All right, section 3, the body connection. Because the brain obviously doesn't operate in a vacuum, right? There is a bidirectional loop at play here. An anxious mind creates an anxious body, but beautifully, a calm body can create a calm mind. Meet your built-in biological brake pedal, the vagus nerve. This superhighway connects your brain to your heart, your lungs, and your gut. In fact, 80% of its fibers send information from the body up to the brain, not the other way around. It acts as a direct doorway right into your nervous system. When you activate it, your heart rate slows down, stress hormones plummet, and safety signals are pumped throughout your entire body. Calm isn't created by thinking harder. It's often created through this very nerve. And here is exactly how you push that brake pedal. It's a science-backed skill called the physiological sigh, and it rapidly reduces physiological stress. You just take 2 short inhales through the nose, filling your lungs completely, followed by 1 long, slow exhale through the mouth. By repeating this just 3 to 5 times, you are mechanically telling your vagus nerve to shut off the alarm system. It's like a manual override. This body connection is incredibly important when we look at sleep, too. So many anxious people try to force sleep. But asking, "Can I sleep?" actually signals danger and pressure to the brain, leading to more wakefulness. But simply asking, "Can I rest?" removes all that performance anxiety. It promotes a calming, parasympathetic tone. Your body just needs permission to rest. Sleep is really just a side effect of that safety. Moving into Section 4, the art of allowing. This is a profound paradigm shift. For most of our lives, we've been taught to fight our anxiety. But the opposite of anxiety is not certainty. The opposite of anxiety is willingness. When we practice mindfulness, just noticing our breath, the sounds around us, our bodily sensations without judging them, look at what physically happens in the brain. Activity in the amygdala, panic center, decreases. Meanwhile, activity in the prefrontal cortex and areas responsible for attention actually increases. You're literally shifting blood flow from the panic centers to the emotional regulation centers. Mindfulness isn't just about relaxation, it is literal weightlifting for your brain's CEO. Now, what's really interesting about this contrast is how we frame our struggle. Telling yourself, "I must get rid of anxiety," creates a whole secondary layer of suffering. You're anxious about being anxious. But simply acknowledging anxiety is present allows for a gentle acceptance. Resistance amplifies suffering, while acceptance drastically reduces the struggle. When uncertainty pops up, just ask yourself if you can control it. If yes, take action. If no, just allow it to be there. And this brings us to our final section, Section 5, Beyond Exhaustion. We really need to redefine burnout. Burnout isn't just being super tired from working too much. It's a brain stuck in survival mode, where the reward sensitivity pathways have been severely dulled. True resilience boils down to a recipe made of 3 essential ingredients. First, recovery. Your nervous system needs oscillation, meaning stress followed by recovery, not stress followed by more stress. Second, connection. Humans regulate each other's nervous systems. Having social support literally reduces stress reactivity. And third, meaning. This is the big one. Meaning powerfully buffers stress. We don't burn out from hard work, guys. We burn out from hard work that lacks meaning. So how do we tap into that meaning to counteract the exhaustion? We use a quick values clarification exercise. Step 1, finish the sentence, "I want my life to stand for." Maybe it's compassion, learning, family, whatever it is. Step 2, identify that core value clearly. And step 3, ask yourself what is just one action you can take today that aligns with that value. You don't have to overhaul your whole life. You just have to align your next step. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to let this core philosophy sink in. Peace does not come from controlling experience. Peace comes from changing your relationship to experience. Stress is inevitable, anxiety is completely human, but suffering, that increases when we believe every single thought and resist every emotion. By developing an observing self, we can experience all the wildness of life without being completely defined by it. So, here's my challenge to you to close things out. Now that you understand your brain's prediction machine, your overzealous bodyguard, and your built-in biological brake pedal, what is one aligned action you will take today? Don't let this just be another interesting explainer you watched. Take this knowledge, step into your real life, and show your brain that you are safe, you are capable, and you are ready. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and I will see you next time.